I want you to take a second and just look at the empty space in the room around you right now. Like if you're outside, just look at the air between you and the nearest tree. Just, stare directly into it.
Yeah, to us, relying on our standard issue human senses, it feels like we are looking at absolutely nothing. I mean, it's just still empty space.
Right. It's just the void we walk through every day without giving it a second thought. But today's deep dive is going to completely change how you see that still air.
We are going to transform that seemingly empty space into this chaotic, highly structured, invisible crowd.
And as we're going to see, the rules governing that invisible crowd hold the fundamental secrets to rockets, sonic booms, and, the true hidden nature of the speed of sound.
And we have a pretty brilliant guide for this journey. Our source material today is this deeply insightful essay titled At Mach One, Vulis, Shockwaves, and the Law Action Reversal.
Written by Dr. Livney Moten, right?
Exactly. And the mission for our depth dive today is to explore exactly what happens when nature crosses a critical speed threshold.
Yeah, we are looking at why the physical rules we rely on every single day, the basic comforting logic of how the physical world works, why they suddenly decide to operate in reverse. Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even begin to understand how air breaks the rules, we have to understand how air communicates normally.
Right, and that underlying communication is where the whole mystery begins, really. As the essay points out, before air becomes wind, or, before it lifts an airplane wing or burns out the back of a rocket, it is an invisible crowd.
An invisible crowd.
Yeah, it's this restless, microscopic world of molecules rushing in every possible direction, just colliding, rebounding, and pushing against each other billions of times a second.
So it's basically like a microscopic mosh pit all around you at all times.
That is a great way to put it.
And this brings up a concept from our source material that completely shifted my perspective, honestly. The actual definition of sound. I mean, we usually think of sound as just noise traveling from point A to point B.
Right, or maybe we subconsciously imagine it as some tiny, invisible, flying object just zipping through the room to reach our ears.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But physically, though, sound is a pressure message. It is a disturbance passed through that molecular mosh pit you just described.
Exactly. If you clap your hands or speak or thunderstorm rolls in, it all works on the exact same messenger system. One small region of air gets compressed, and those molecules physically push their immediate neighbors.
And then those neighbors bump into the next ones in line, right?
You got it. And the message just ripples forward. The air is quite literally talking to itself using pressure.
That is so wild to think about. And so the speed of sound isn't just, a cool number for fighter pilots to brag about. It's the absolute speed limit of that messenger system.
What's fascinating here is that the deepest problem of Mach 1 isn't the speed itself. I mean, we tend to focus on the sheer velocity, like how fast an object is moving over the ground.
Right, the Mach number.
Yeah. But the deeper physical problem is that the fundamental way the air communicates with itself has completely broken down.
Okay, so to make this a bit more visual for you listening, imagine sound traveling through the air like a really dense crowd at a massive stadium concert.
Oh, I like this analogy.
Yeah, and you were trying to pass a verbal message from the very back of the arena all the way up to the front stage. Yeah. You tell the person in front of you, they tell the person in front of them, and, the message ripples forward.
Right.
At our normal, everyday low speeds, the air has plenty of time to essentially hear what is coming before it arrives.
Because the messenger is comfortably faster than the moving object. I mean, the text mentions that pressure disturbances can actually travel upstream against the flow of the gas.
Wait, against the flow?
Yeah. So if an object is moving through the air at subsonic speeds, the air ahead of it gets the pressure message early. It gets a warning.
Oh, okay.
So the air can rearrange itself, it can part, it can adjust and prepare before the object even gets there.
But if you start actually running through that stadium crowd, physically pushing past people, faster than they can turn and speak to each other, you hit a fundamental limit. You are outrunning the gossip. I mean, you are moving faster than the crowd can communicate.
And that is Mach 1. It is the exact moment when a gas flow, or an object moving through it, is traveling as fast as its own pressure messages.
Wow.
The internal conversation has reached its absolute limit. And because that fundamental communication breaks down, our everyday intuition about how air is supposed to move just completely fails us.
It fails us so dramatically that scientists in the early days of high-speed flight were completely stumped. And this leads to a brilliant thought experiment the author sets up to show just how broken our intuition becomes.
Right, the pipe experiment.
Yeah. Imagine a very simple setup. You have a powerful fan pushing air into a long, straight pipe.
Now, downstream, imagine that pipe gradually becoming narrower, like it tapers down. Our low-speed, everyday experience tells us that narrowing a passage makes the fluid speed up.
Which makes total sense. I mean, if you're watering the garden and you pinch the end of the hose, the water jet shoots out faster.
Right, exactly.
Or if you leave a window open, just a tiny crack, or you feel the draft under a door, the air whistles through that small gap with a lot of speed. A narrowing passage invites greater speed.
So the fan pushes, the pipe narrows, and the subsonic air accelerates. Everything behaves exactly the way our intuition predicts.
Right.
And the reason for this is that at low speeds, air behaves essentially like water. It is mostly incompressible.
Meaning you can't squeeze it down.
Exactly. Since you can't easily squish it into a smaller volume, the only way for the same amount of air to get through that narrower opening is to just move faster.
But then, and this is the crazy part, the flow inside that pipe approaches Mach 1. It hits the speed of sound.
And at that critical speed, if the pipe continues to narrow, the air does not simply pass smoothly through Mach 1 and keep accelerating into supersonic speeds. The system hits a wall.
A literal wall.
Well, a physical limit. In fluid dynamics, we say the flow might choke.
Wait, what do you mean by choke? Like a physical traffic bottleneck?
Quite literally, yeah. Choke flow means the gas has reached Mach 1 at the narrowest point, and it physically cannot go any faster no matter how much more pressure you apply upstream.
No matter how much you push it.
No matter how hard you push. It is a fundamental traffic jam. The air might become highly unsteady or form separated regions where the flow just detaches from the walls of the pipe, creating all this chaotic turbulence.
Oh, wow.
The gas will find a lawful physical answer, but it definitely won't be the answer your low-speed imagination expects.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the solution to this problem feels like a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
If you want that gas to go faster than Mach 1, the pipe has to stop narrowing.
Right.
To make the gas go faster, the pipe must actually widen. It has to converge to a narrow throat where the gas hits the speed of sound, and then it must diverge, or open up, to go supersonic.
The gas after Mach 1 is no longer living by our ordinary low-speed rules. It has crossed into an entirely new regime. And in that new regime, the effect of the exact action completely reverses.
Hold on, I really need to push back on this, because I'm trying to picture the physics here, and my brain is just resisting.
That's completely normal.
Because if I widen the pipe, the gas has more room. If it has more room, the pressure drops and it spreads out. If the pressure drops, shouldn't it lose its driving force? Like, how does spreading out equal going faster? It sounds like relaxing, not accelerating.
That is the exact intuitive trap that stalled engineers for years. To understand the why, we have to look at the battle between velocity and density. Remember how we said that at low speeds, air acts like water? It's incompressible.
Right, you can't squish it.
But once you cross Mach 1, the rules change because the air becomes highly compressible. It is no longer behaving like water. As the flow goes supersonic, the density of the gas drops drastically.
Okay, so it gets lighter.
It expands so violently and so rapidly that its volume just explodes.
So the gas is puffing up.
Massively. And here is the mechanical secret. Because the density drops much faster than the velocity increases, you need more physical room just to fit the expanding gas while still conserving mass.
Oh, I see.
The pipe must widen to accommodate that rapid volumetric expansion, which is what allows the pressure energy to convert into kinetic energy. Without that widening space, the expansion just chokes on itself.
That is mind-bending. The action hasn't changed. We're still changing the geometry of the pipe. But the physical nature of the gas has changed so profoundly that the required geometry is completely opposite.
Exactly. And this realization wasn't just a fun parlor trick. It required a totally new mathematical framework to predict, which is exactly the puzzle a scientist named Lev Abramovich Vulis decided to solve.
Vulis?
Yeah, Vulis worked in the complex, high-stakes world of Soviet gas dynamics in the mid-20th century. He was dealing with combustion, thermal physics, and, the absolute bleeding edge of the early space age.
Really intense stuff.
Very intense. And in 1950, he published a foundational book called Thermodynamics of Gas Flows, where he formulated this exact mathematical framework.
And that framework is what we now call Vulis Law of action reversal at Mach 1.
The name is incredibly literal, too. Near Mach 1, actions imposed on a gas flow reverse their effects.
Which just sounds so bizarre.
It does. A change in the area of a pipe, adding heat, adding friction, adding or removing mass, all of these things will influence a slow subsonic flow in one direction and a fast supersonic flow in the exact opposite direction.
It really does mess with your head to think that adding heat to a supersonic flow might actually slow it down, or that widening a pipe accelerates it.
Yeah, but as the essay beautifully points out, Vulis' law is profound because it corrects us without humiliating us.
I love that phrase.
Your first intuition wasn't stupid. Pinching the hose really does make the water go faster. Your intuition was just local.
Local to our slow world.
Exactly. It belongs to the slow-moving world we inhabit, where pressure communication is gentle and instantaneous. Vulis' law just shows us the exact boundary line where our everyday intuition must stop and a new kind of thinking must begin.
It's basically a doorway into a mirrored universe of physics. And the coolest part is we don't just study this in theoretical textbooks. Human beings actually use this bizarre reversal rule in the real world to accomplish our most extreme feats.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to see Vulis' law of action reversal in its purest physical form, just look at a rocket nozzle.
Let's break that down, because when you watch a rocket launch, you see this massive metallic bell at the bottom of the vehicle spewing fire. And to the untrained eye, it looks like it's just a giant reinforced cup there to contain a massive explosion, just, brute force pushing the rocket up.
But heat and pressure by themselves are not a vehicle. Inside the rocket engine, you have combustion-producing gas at enormous temperature and pressure. It is a violent, chaotic, microscopic world of molecules vibrating and rushing in every direction. The entire job of the engine is to convert that chaotic internal heat energy into directed forward motion.
And the nozzle is the physical mechanism doing the conversion.
Exactly. Picture the inside of that nozzle as a coiled spring. First, in the converging section, the pipe narrows. It squeezes the hot subsonic gas, accelerating it toward the narrowest point, the throat.
Okay.
This is like compressing the spring, building tension. At that exact narrowest point, the gas hits Mach 1. The spring is fully compressed.
And then, obeying Vulis' law, the nozzle does the part that feels wrong to our low-speed intuition. It stops narrowing and it begins to widen. It diverges into that iconic bell shape.
Because that is the only way to release the tension of the spring into kinetic energy in this new supersonic regime.
Wow.
The widening, diverging bell shape allows the incredibly dense sonic gas to expand. The pressure drops, the density plummets, and all that internal thermal energy is converted into a massive, unimaginably fast exhaust jet.
The author describes a rocket as disciplined violence. It is fire persuaded into geometry.
Such a great line.
It really is. And that completely changes the way you watch a rocket launch. It's not just a giant fire hose pointing down. It's this brilliant, quiet, intellectual trick engineered to perfectly manipulate the laws of thermodynamics. Before the throat, you squeeze to accelerate. After the throat, you open to accelerate.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where engineering becomes a visible expression of physics. I mean, the machine looks the way it does because nature demands that exact shape if we want to cross smoothly from one regime to another.
Form follows function on a molecular level.
Exactly. Engineers know that after Mach 1, opening the passage is no longer surrender. It is the mandatory key to acceleration.
Okay, so we've seen how engineers perfectly control the flow of air inside a carefully shaped pipe like a rocket engine. But what happens outside a vehicle? Like, what happens when a jet or a spacecraft smashes through that invisible crowd of air without a perfectly designed converging, diverging pipe to gracefully guide the flow?
That takes us into the territory of shockwaves. And once again, we have to correct our everyday assumptions. We usually think of a shockwave as just a loud noise, like a sonic boom that rattles your windows when a jet flies over.
Right, we perceive it purely as acoustics, like an explosion in the sky.
Right, acoustics are a byproduct, but in gas dynamics, a shock wave is a sudden extreme adjustment in the flow itself. It is a razor-thin region where pressure, temperature, density, and velocity all change sharply and violently.
Because they have to.
Right. It happens because the gas simply cannot rearrange itself smoothly enough to get out of the way.
Because the communication is broken down.
Exactly. Go back to our pressure messages. At slow, subsonic speeds, the object moving through the air is sending disturbances forward. The airhead gets a warning. It gracefully moves aside. It gently compresses. The conversation is still happening.
But at supersonic speeds, the object is moving faster than its own warning signals. It's like it's like driving a car blindfolded at 200 miles per hour through a crowded parking lot. The people in front of you have zero idea you are coming until you are physically making contact.
That's horrifying, but perfectly accurate. The air ahead gets absolutely no warning. So instead of a gentle spreading of pressure information, you get a catastrophic pileup.
A pileup.
Yeah, that violent pileup of uncommunicated information is a shockwave.
So what does this all mean for the vehicles actually flying through this? Does this mean the famous sound barrier isn't an actual physical wall in the sky, but basically a massive instantaneous traffic jam of air molecules that didn't get the memo you were coming?
This raises an important question about how we view our atmosphere. And your traffic jam analogy is spot on. Breaking the sound barrier is a fundamental transition in how information and motion organize themselves.
Yeah.
The air can no longer calmly prepare. The pressure field is violently reorganized, and these severe shocks become a permanent physical part of the vehicle's environment. It has to just drag them along.
And this becomes even more dramatic, literally a matter of life and death during spacecraft reentry.
Oh, without a doubt. When a spacecraft returns from orbit, it hits the upper atmosphere at tremendous hypersonic speeds, sometimes Mach 25.
Mach 25.
Yeah, and the air in front of it is compressed so violently because it has absolutely zero time to move out of the way that the kinetic energy of the vehicle's orbital motion is instantly converted into massive heat.
It's the hidden drama of air.
It really is. At our walking speed, air seems soft. It's a gentle breeze that lets a child fly a kite. But at supersonic and hypersonic speeds, that exact same atmosphere becomes severe. It resists.
Yeah.
It forms a furnace around a returning spacecraft that will completely destroy the vehicle if the physics of high speed aren't perfectly respected.
It's incredible to think that the exact same invisible crowd of molecules can be a gentle breeze on your face or a fiery wall of plasma, entirely depending on whether you respect the speed limit of its internal gossip.
That is the genius of scientists like Lev Abramovich Vulis. They don't just build the machines, they give us the mathematical language to understand what the machines must obey.
Right.
He helped make visible the reversal hidden at Mach One. He showed us that science isn't just collecting facts, it's training our imagination to recognize that when a threshold is crossed, the rules we carried into the problem might turn completely upside down.
We've covered a lot of ground today, and I really hope this deep dive has shifted your perspective. Mach 1 isn't just a number on a dial. It's a doorway where the rules of nature turn around.
Absolutely.
The next time you feel a breeze or you hear a jet high up in the sky or you watch a rocket launch, I want you to picture that invisible molecular crowd. Picture that hidden threshold of action reversal where squeezing stops working and widening takes over.
It really does change how you see the physical world.
It really does. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, something that builds on this idea of Vulis Law. We've seen that a fundamental law of physics dictates that crossing a critical speed threshold completely reverses how a physical system responds to pressure.
Right.
Could a law of action reversal apply to human systems too? Think about it. When our cities, our corporate organizations, or our global communication networks scale up and move past their own critical speed, do the old rules of efficiency suddenly reverse? Do the bottlenecks we usually try to narrow suddenly need to be blown wide open? Keep pondering that. Until next time, keep looking at the invisible crowds around you.